This is lesson 4 of our borrowing unit on credit. In this lesson, we're going to talk about your rights and responsibilities as someone who might need to use credit to get a loan or to have a credit card. So you've already learned a lot about credit, and I want to know what you think. Is credit good or bad? Is it good to have credit? Is it bad to have credit? Maybe you feel like there's a little bit of give and take in both directions, but come up with an idea right now of what you think about credit. Is it scary? Is it good? Is it bad? What is it? I want you to know that there is no right or wrong answer to this question. It's really just a question on preference. But I think it's pretty important to know that credit might not be good or bad. It's how we use credit that's good or bad. We can wisely use credit and improve our options in our life, or we can be very unwise when we use credit and find that we get deeper and deeper into debt. So today we're going to look at just strategies that can help us use credit in a positive way that's going to help us improve our life. As we look through this lesson, we're going to be able to answer these questions. What are my legal responsibilities when I sign a contract? What are guidelines for borrowing? And where can I get help when I have credit problems? So then we're going to use what you've learned to take on the responsibilities of borrowing, whether that be a few bucks from a friend or whether that be a couple $1,000s from a lending agency of some sort. Maybe you've decided for yourself that credit and borrowing money isn't something that you necessarily want to do, and you don't have plans to borrow any money right now. But even if you decide to limit or avoid borrowing, it's a good idea to have some type of credit history that can be an advantage to you down the road. So having a credit report that shows a history of using credit responsibly, it can provide benefits such as lower insurance premium rates, less hassle when you have to apply for utilities like water and electricity in your apartment, lower interest rates if you decide to apply for a credit card or an auto loan or a home loan. So if we can become wise with our money and have a good credit history now, that's going to help you in the long run way down the road. So loans and they can be influenced. Okay, let me restart that. Loans can influence interest. When you have a credit report, which we kind of talked about in our last lesson, it's similar to a letter of recommendation. So if you've ever gone to a teacher or a parent or a good close colleague or boss and asked them to write you a letter of recommendation for something, they go through and they tell all of the good points about you and even sometimes the things that you need to work on. Your credit score works in the same way. It's a way for your lenders to investigate your borrowing history and to see a little bit about your reputation. So remember that lenders use information from credit reports to determine your credit scores, which then are used to predict if you are a person who will pay your bills on time. So let's look at some ways that you can influence your credit score. When you pay your bills on time, that is the best way to get a good credit score. If you open several accounts in a short period of time, so you open a bank account and then you open another bank account and then you get a credit card and then you get a car loan, that can influence your credit score as well. That's actually going to reduce your score. So opening several accounts in a short time frame, it will hurt your score, especially when you're just starting out. It makes you look desperate to borrow. So if you're opening up, 2 credit card accounts and then you get a loan for a car and then you get a loan for college, that's going to significantly reduce your credit score. Owning a credit card that you never use can also influence your score, but it's going to influence it in a negative way. Creditors, they want to see how well you use your credit. If there's no activity for a long time, the account actually might be considered inactive. I actually had that. I opened a credit card when I was 18 years old and didn't do anything with it. It significantly reduced my credit score, and now it's a closed account, which I'm okay that it's closed, but it would have been better for my score if I had never opened it in the first place, or if I had opened it and used maybe a little bit of the card each month and then paid it down. So let's look at this next thing. Frequently move credit card balances to new cards with better interest rates. Can that help your score? So what this is saying is if you have 3 or 4 credit cards and they each have some money that you haven't paid off on them yet, you could move all of that to a brand new card and close down the old ones. It might have a better interest rate, so you might have more money to pay off on it, but you're paying less in interest. That is not going to help your credit score. Card hopping is what we call it. It decreases the average age of your credit account. So the longer you have a card or an account, the better your credit score is. Lenders like to see long-term relationships with banks or with credit card agencies. Getting a credit card when you already have a car and student loan. Do you think that can help your credit score? Well, remember, those are all things that you're borrowing money against. But adding a credit card when you only have loans can help because lenders prefer to see a mix of credit types. So for me, I just paid off my car loan and my student loans, and my credit score actually went down because I no longer have that mix of credit types. I have a credit card, but no loans or anything else that I'm trying to repay. If you close a credit card that you made a lot of payments on, that's not going to help your credit score. Closing an account with negative items, it's not going to help. The account still will remain on your credit report for up to 10 years, whether it's inactive or it's closed. And again, credit agencies want to see you using and maintaining your credit. Using a debit card responsibly. Unfortunately, whether you have a debit card or not, that's different than a credit card. The debit card usage doesn't show up on a credit report because these types of money transactions that you use with a debit card, they're from your own bank account. You're not borrowing them from somebody else. You're just using the money that you have already. A debit card is very much like a check. You have to use what's in your bank account, and if you overdraw or you overspend, you're going to be in trouble with your bank. You may have been surprised with some of the answers that could reduce or increase your credit score. When I looked through all of those questions, there seemed to be a lot of things that could reduce credit scores rather than things that can help boost. But the one thing I want you to remember is that lenders want to do business with responsible borrowers, but they're also in business to make money. So they're seeking customers who not only repay, but also potentially pay additional interest. So they're looking for you to repay what you borrowed, but also they want to make sure that they're getting interest out of you. So they don't want you to repay it really, really quickly so you have low interest. They want you to take your time paying it. That's one reason why individuals need to know what they're getting into when they're borrowing, so that you can be a responsible borrower and work with lending agencies well. If you haven't already, I want you to turn into your notebook to Activity 2.6, Good and Bad Uses of Credit, and I want you to fill that out. It's asking you to figure out for yourself if you think each of those situations is a good or bad idea to use money, to borrow money. You may have already filled this out a little bit, but after looking at the reasons for good and bad credit, you might want to change some of the ideas and the situations, why it is or is not a good idea. So go through that right now, pause this video, and look at those 6 options and scenarios and figure out for yourself whether these are good or bad reasons. I want you to use some proof from the last few minutes to also explain why that might be a good reason or a bad reason to borrow credit. I want to point out that you are entering into a contract when you borrow money, when you take out a loan, when you use a credit card or get a cell phone. And a contract is a legal binding arrangement that 2 parties agree to uphold. So although repaying what is owned, it's the right thing to do, borrowers, you have additional responsibility to carry out when you enter into a contract. So here are some consequences if you don't follow through on your contractual responsibilities. There could be embarrassment if your card is declined at the checkout. So if you go and to a register and you want to check out and use your credit card, sometimes it can be declined, and that can be very embarrassing. You can have your property repossessed if you're not paying your loans back on time. If you have an auto loan that you're not paying, the company could go and take your car back. You have a state of perpetual debt, which can increase personal stress. If you always have loans looming over your head, that can be stressful in life. Paying higher interest rates or late fees. If you're not paying on time, or if you need another loan and the credit card company sees that, they're going to encourage you to pay higher interest rates. There might be negative details for others to see on your credit report, so it's going to be a lot harder for you to get accepted for a loan. Having your wages garnished, so that means you have less money when you get a paycheck. Contact with a collection agency, which says that they're going to come and make sure that you pay your money, or unplanned expenses for legal actions to enforce the contract. So I don't want you to be scared about using credit. But if you're not being responsible, if you're not paying on time, or you're not paying the right amount, there are some very scary things that can happen when you misuse your credit. I hate to end on such a scary note, but that is all the time that we have for today. I will continue to work on your lessons for your responsibilities as a lender, but that is all I have for you today.